Hello everyone, this is Will from Art of Will. Welcome to episode 1. Since this is the first episode, I figured it'd be a good idea to be a little more general and talk a little bit about everything. I'll start with a brief process explanation for these videos. The funnest part for me is the sketching part. That's why all you're seeing is the black and white sketch. I believe, the designs, most of the designs could be portrayed in it, and most of what I wanted to portray could be captured in the black and white. So, and that's what I'm doing, and I usually start with just a very basic idea. For example, this one is a chunky robot. Like, what is it? What is a chunky robot, right? And through that, I start doing some sketches, uh, and at a certain point, you see me just deleting the whole thing completely. And that's because I wasn't happy with the sketch that I've generated. And oftentimes you have to do that for work or for yourself. Don't be stingy on, on erasing and starting from the beginning. You might think you're gonna save time by fixing it, but actually, a lot of times it's more efficient to start over. Your sketch that you've deleted has allowed you to push the next sketch further, right? Because you already made a mistake. You already corrected your mistake through that first sketch. So your second sketch is going to be better. You don't have to spend time correcting it. After where I feel like I bring a sketch to a decent level and I want to push it further, sometimes I will look for a reference for things that, for example, for this robot specifically, I wanted a little more military hardware feel. Like, that's why I looked up a few pictures of tanks and kind of just looked for details and information design elements that are on a tank that could support what I wanted to show for this robot. And after that, it's just a matter of refinement, just taking your time, cleaning things up here and there. And yeah, that is pretty much the process for this. After that, I guess it might be a good idea for me to tell you guys a little bit of how I got started as an artist. I mean, everyone likes an origin story, right? Like many kids, I've always liked to draw. As an Asian kid, extracurricular classes is just a part of life, right? So throughout like kindergarten to all the way to high school, I've been taking extracurricular art classes. But like they're not really too helpful in terms of what they like. They can't really prepare you to be like a working artist, in my opinion at least. Especially if you want to be a entertainment artist, like for example a concept artist for a movie or video games, because those extracurricular classes that I took were basically just fine art classes, right? For example, I think the first one I took was a calligraphy class, a Chinese calligraphy class. So you're writing with a brush pen, that kind of stuff. And then the ones that I took later were, like oil painting, watercolor. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of people who do really good work with those mediums, but I don't think the teachers teaching those classes had that in mind, nor did I really have that goal in my head back then, right? I think without knowing what you want to do and where do you want to go, it's very difficult for you to realistically understand and apply the stuff you've learned through these classes. So in high school, a very useful one that I took, was not extracurricular, was a class called computer art class. And in that class we were introduced to like using Photoshop and all sorts of like digital tools, right? I didn't even have a tablet back then, but at least I got an idea of being able to do art on the computer. After that, through doing more research, I found out about the school called Sheridan College. And for those of you who don't know what Sheridan College is, it's probably one of the better animation schools in the world. If not, like North America at least, right? And it happens to be pretty close to Toronto, which is where I live. So it kind of just made sense. But the thing is, I don't, I never did, I still don't specifically want to do animation, right? I just, at the time especially, I just wanted to be a concept artist, which means I just want to design. I just want to think of cool things to design. But there were no other options, right? Like I had to go to school somewhere. School is still useful to be able to meet people and meet industry professionals that are your professors. Definitely is a positive. And there are a lot of things that I took from the class that I still use today. I had to go to school somewhere because that's just what you do after you finish high school, right? You go to university or college, and that just seemed to be the best option. Not to say schools are not useful for this line of work, but especially nowadays, there are a lot of different ways that you can learn that doesn't require going to school. And as far as I know, portfolio and skill always comes first. In fact, your education actually don't even matter. But the benefits of schools are still there though, right? To be able to get critiques from your peers, to be able to make the network that you might be able to carry throughout maybe the rest of your life. That is a very, very big benefit of going to school. But if you're just talking about skill development, you have everything you need in front of you on your computer, on the internet. So after finally getting in to Sheridan, I realized that the classes weren't really preparing me to do the kind of work that I wanted to do. And I just started to do more research. And that's where I found FCD, Fenzu School of Design, and his video series. That's where I got my first concrete evidence of how to become or what kind of work you need to do to become a designer in this industry. What is the kind of things you have to think about and do, the kind of work that you have to show to be a concept artist. And after that, I just started working on my own portfolio. We had to do portfolios because during third year we had an internship program that the school hosts, and so for that we had to build a portfolio. And most people, they just put their own schoolwork, right? Because that's the whole point is to do the best you can during those assignments and have those as your portfolio pieces. But since there was no concept art class, I had to make a portfolio on my own, and that landed me a position at a small game studio, a mobile game studio. That wasn't even local. Like I couldn't even get to it. They were not close to where I was, so I had to work remotely, which was great actually. I love working remotely. And eventually, after the whole internship program ended, it was a summer program, so it was it was 2 months during the summer. After the program ended, they actually wanted me to stay on and that they would pay me. So I just took that opportunity and I started working for them and decided to drop out and work for the for that studio. eventually the project got canceled, so I was out of work again, unfortunately. And my skills still weren't good enough for me to really stand up to any serious, professional, right? Like they hired me because I didn't have to pay me a lot, first of all, and I was good enough. But it wasn't good enough for myself. It wasn't good enough for a lot of these other companies. I thought it was, but I definitely wasn't. And through that, I started to just self-teach for a couple of years, actually. Probably like more than a year or two, I would say at least, until I got some more credible freelance work from like tabletop games or stuff like that. But even then, I would say my skills were good enough to find work, but in order for your work to be seen by the right people, you do need a certain level of networking, as I don't like to call it that, but you want to know enough people that they can provide you with the necessary opportunities, right, to showcase your work and to get the information of where might need your skill sets. And that's I joined a local community called Talentry, and that's where I built that network. And everything else kind of just fell in place after that. Got better. It just kept on practicing really, and I got more work from bigger and bigger clients, and got studio work as well. And this is where I am right now. I hope my random ramblings have been somewhat useful for you guys. Oh, right, before I end it, I had an idea actually. I think it'd be fun for you guys to leave and suggest ideas for me to sketch for future episodes. If I see any that I like, I will do sketches based off those briefs, as well as quoting it and putting it in the video title. I think that'll be interesting for you guys to see and for me to have fun with, just so you can see, my interpretation of what your ideas are. Also, I think it might be useful for some people, so I'm just gonna leave some system specs for you guys. I am running a Windows 10 Pro for 64-bit i7 CPU. I have 32 gigs of RAM. I'm using a Wacom 4, Intuos 4. I've got this tablet. I've had this tablet for years, probably more than a decade or so at this point, and it's just as good as when I first bought it. So these things are definitely built to last. And in fact, personally, I'm not a huge fan of using Cintiqs because my posture on those have never been good, and the surfaces have always been a little slippery to me. And I think I'm just really used to drawing on a tablet, so don't need fancy gear is what I'm trying to say. Lastly, the resolution for all my sketches are 16 by 9 inches and 300 dpi. And the brush I use is this very brush pen like brush that I've gotten off of a friend of mine. If you guys are interested in the brush, I can always upload it somewhere and share it with you guys. Thank you guys for watching. That is it for me. As always, please leave your feedback, questions, and topics you want me to cover in the comments, and I will see you next time.